Hello, everyone. This is Coach Clayton, and this is my Women's Empowerment Interview episode. And today we have Wendy. Our guest today is Wendy, and she is just so inspiring, her amazing journey and obstacles that she overcame in life. I just had to invite her to this platform to speak to everyone, to inspire everyone. Hi, Wendy. How are you doing?
I am very well, thank you. How are you today?
Good, very good. I just want to thank you again, Wendy, for taking the time out of your busy day to discuss your journey. And, you know, you're such a brave woman. I just had to have you on this platform.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. And, you know, thank you for taking the time and for having this platform for us women to talk and inspire and hopefully pass on the light of hope to someone else.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Wendy, your background really intrigued me, especially being so brave with your story about overcoming alcoholism. And I just wanted to tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about when did you decide that you needed help, and what were some of the things that you did that led up to that point, Wendy?
I am born and raised Kenyan. Proudly Kenyan. I've been blessed to travel around quite a bit because I am administrative logistician by career. So I do logistics and administration, and I've been quite blessed to move around quite a bit. I grew up my entire childhood in Kenya. I started traveling at the age of, I traveled out of the country for the first time when I was 23. And I relocated for the first time when I was 24 to Dakar, Senegal, which is where I'm based at the moment. I can honestly say that I don't think I had like one aha moment with addiction for me to say I need help now. It was a process. For those who know Kenya very well, and you know, places around the world where alcohol is just part of what you do. It's what you do when you're celebrating, when you're having parties, during Christmas, you overindulge and we all laugh at each other and make fun of each other. So it was never really like, oh, I might have a problem. In fact, for me, it was sort of like a badge of honor because I could pretty much drink a lot of folks under the table. Like people would be falling asleep around me and I'd still be going. So I was like, you know, I was a little proud of that, you know, something to be proud of that, you know, you never black out. In fact, I was the one who was always taking care of everybody when after a long night out and making sure everybody got home. And then, you know, traveling to different places, but it was traveling to Dakar that kind of was the first time that I'd hang out with my friends and they'd be like, why are you drinking so much? Like, what's the rush? Why are you drinking alcohol like it's water? And I'm like, I'm on my third beer, y'all. It's not all that. Like, I don't get it. But then I saw people could have fun, party all night without being drunk, without having that excuse of alcohol. And I'm like, yo, something wrong with you, because I do not understand how you can have fun without, you know, tequila shots and all of that. And then my two very, very dear friends, Aja and Bernie, I think for me, they are the beacon of hope that started this process. They realized I had a problem. And for them, my problem wasn't the alcohol, but when I'd get drunk and I was hanging out around them, there's parts of me that would come out. I'd start crying or I'll talk about something that happened in my past. And at some point they'd wait for me to get sober and then they'll be like, you know, Wendy, I think there's a couple of things that you're not dealing with. I think there's, you know, we think that there's a couple of things that you're using the alcohol to mask. And while we're your friends, we think you need professional help. And at the time I was like, no, I don't need any help. I'm fine. Everything that's happened is in the past. There's nothing wrong with it. And, you know, they'd let it go for a little bit and then they'd wait, something else would happen. And then they'd push me a little bit more. And they actually got to the point they were like, Wendy, find a psychologist, find a shrink to talk to. And we'll pay for you for the first 3 months. Because I was completely against it. And they were like, we're putting our money where our mouths are. You need help. You need someone to help you process all of these things. And it took me 18 months and them gently kind of like prodding me. And at some point I really started reflecting, and I'm like, okay, what harm would it do to talk to somebody about some of the issues that I grew up with? And some of those issues included growing up in an extremely violent household. My dad was very violent. He was also a drunk. At the time, I didn't think he was an addict, but he was also an alcoholic. I had been sexually molested on several occasions. So there were all of these things that I had not dealt with. I had not even talked to people about them. And I had just buried them for years and years and years. And then I got this really bad health scares. I started having stomach issues, and then I gained a bunch of weight. And my doctor was just like, you really have to stop drinking. You are like, I had this stomach bug, and the doctor was like, you have to stop drinking beer at least. And all this time, I kid you not, I could not imagine life without alcohol. Even as little as 3 years ago, if you had told me I could quit, I'd have been like, I don't know what you're high on, but that's never gonna happen. So once I started seeing somebody and started unpacking some of my traumas and talking about them and letting them out, what you would finally call my rock bottom moment happened one morning in October 2019 when I couldn't go to work. I woke up, I had done a 4-day binge of alcohol. I'd been drinking for like 4 days straight. And I woke up on a Monday morning. I was throwing up. I had a running stomach. I could barely get out of bed. I'm asthmatic, so I could barely breathe. I was in really bad shape. And that day I looked at myself in the mirror and I asked myself if this is it, if this is all my life is about. I was at that point, I was 34 years old, not married, a bad marriage having been one of the things that I considered my failures. And I'm just like, Wendy, is this what we're going to do for the rest of our lives? Is this it? Are we going to keep doing this thing where you drink to almost oblivion, wake up, have a really bad hangover, spend the day drinking Red Bull and Vimto to keep your sugar levels up and go to work and function, and then do it all over again?
Yes.
And I was just like, okay, we can't do this. This is unsustainable. And honestly, you're better than this. So when I started, I wasn't going to go sober completely. That's the truth.
Really?
I was like,
so what did you think? Did you think that you were just going to do like
365 days? That was my goal. I am going to do 365 days of no alcohol to prove to myself that alcohol has no power over me. That was my goal. That was my only goal.
Yes.
And so started day one, but I was so afraid of failing. I was still so afraid of failing that I didn't tell anybody. I told my shrink, my psychologist, and I told my 2 friends just to let them know that, hey guys, I really appreciate your support through this process. And I finally got into the point where I'm challenging myself to not drink for a year. But I didn't tell anybody else. And I kept hanging out with my friends, and and everyone would be like, hey, you're not drinking today? You're drinking virgin mojito? What's up? And I'm like, oh, I'm on antibiotics. I can't drink. Once I get off the antibiotics, I'll be able to drink again. And about 3 months in is when I started telling people, I'm like, okay, I'm not drinking for a while. I'm just not going to drink. And most of my friends were very supportive. They're like, okay, great. Day 366, we're going to throw a party and you can have a glass of champagne and whatever beer you want. And so I went, I kept going, and then COVID happened. And we were all shut down. And then my anxiety, all those voices in my head that had always told me I wasn't good enough. I was deathly afraid that, I'd lose, work I'd become redundant. And so I am stuck in my house. We are working from home. I'm living by myself, and I'm literally running my brain ragged, but I'm still determined not to drink, because that's what used to drive me to drink, my brain going so fast.
Yes.
And so I developed this routine of walking. Okay. I would get out of my house. Dakar is this beautiful city, and it's on the ocean front. So I'd walk along the beach for 2 or 3 hours at a time in the evenings, and I'd walk till my feet hurt. Nice. Because then I could get home and I could sleep without
decompress.
Exactly.
I love it.
So that's what I started doing. And then somewhere in the middle of that, I had a very, very good friend of mine, very, very good friend. Just, you know what COVID did to all of us? It kind of shattered our lives, turned our lives upside down.
Yeah.
And one of my friends had his life moved, completely upside down by other factors.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I was collateral damage. That's the best way to put it. And he became very mean and unkind to me. And it was somebody who I really cared about, who I thought was one of my, one of those friends. It wasn't one of the two friends, but it was a friend that I thought was really close to me. And I felt massively betrayed. I was hurt. I was already dealing with all of these things. And then losing such a vital friendship was really hard for me. But then, and on that day when that happened, like everything I'd been trying to keep at bay kind of flooded back in on me. And I just felt unworthy, because this was maybe the second or third friendship I was losing in a very short span of time.
Oh, yes.
So I just kind of felt like all those, it's like, oh, these were my closest people. They're the people who know me inside and out. Am I that ugly on the inside that they don't want to be my friends? What is wrong with me? All of those voices just came back, and they came back with such a force. And that day, I had a bottle of vodka and pills, and I put them on the table. And I sat on the couch, and I was rocking myself back and forth, crying. And I'm like, God, I'm done. I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of being this nice person, and people just keep like walking out on me and just leaving me by myself, like I don't matter. And so all of those voices just kept coming in. And I have quite a bit of faith in God. And so I rocked and prayed. And I'll tell you a little bit about my mom. My mom was a very strong woman of God, and she passed away from breast cancer. But as somebody who's contemplated suicide a few times, I've actually tried a couple of times. I keep thinking that if I ever succeed, my mother will be waiting for me at the party gate with a slipper, and she'll be like, I did not sacrifice my entire life for you, for you to do something so stupid.
Yeah.
And as I rocked back and forth, and this was in July 2020, it was August 2020, and I'm rocking and I'm crying, and it took me 3 hours. But then I finally decided my sobriety, my life is mine.
That's right.
No human being. If God decides my time has come, that's fine. But no human being is ever going to have that much power over me, no matter who they are. And I poured the vodka down, and I was 2 months away from my 1 year, but it was at that time I realized I couldn't go back. I wasn't ready. And if I went back, I'd probably do worse. And it was at that point I realized I need to heal everything before I can even think about a sip of alcohol. And that will be a journey on its own. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do each year. I'm going to do each day when I need to do each day, a step at a time. And I'm going to end up wherever I'm going to end up, but it's going to be without alcohol. And yeah, so I started my second year, and that's when I told a lot of my friends, I was like, I've decided that I'm going to be sober for the next foreseeable future. And yeah.
I love that. I love that story. I love your journey. I love it. Now, how important I know that I'm considered African American or Black. In the United States, in my culture, therapy they're starting to open their minds about therapy. But a lot of times, especially in my generation, it was so taboo. Like, you're going, what? To a therapist? For what? You know what I mean? Just deal with your issues and move on. How was it in your mind? How did you view therapy before going to it? And now, how do you view it?
I was completely resistant. Those 18 months was me saying, I don't need a shrink telling me what's wrong with me. I don't. I'm fine. I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need to tell anyone all of my dirty linen. You know, we have these sayings, don't wash your dirty linen in public. You don't want to tell people all of your issues because then they're going to judge you for it. And that was one of those things I was deathly afraid of. And I think in Africa, just like it is in a lot of communities in the United States, is the same thing. Like, really, are you mentally sick? Like, do you have schizophrenia or one of those other conditions? That you need to see someone? Why don't you just deal with it? And to be honest, it's the same thing with alcoholism and addiction. Even now, when I tell certain people that I stopped drinking because I was an addict, they're like, yeah, well, I never saw you black out. I've never seen you, dirty, rugged on the streets. Like the vision, what people think of when they think of addiction is somebody who can't function, who can't walk straight, who's in the gutter and dirty and stuff. And I'm like, if you cannot go a month, not even a month, if you can't even go a week without drinking, whether it's socially or at home, if you can't imagine a life without any sort of alcohol, you need to examine your relationship with whether it's whatever it is that you get your kicks from. You need to ask yourself if this is a healthy outlet for me. And one of my friends said to me, Wendy, I don't think you were an addict. You weren't an addict. You were functioning. I never saw this. And, it's just about responsible drinking. And I said, then maybe we need to examine what responsible drinking means. We need to ask ourselves, what do I mean when I say responsible drinking? What does that mean for me? But what does that mean in a societal view? So right now, I think every adult needs a shrink. I really do.
Yes.
I think a lot of us adults are walking out here looking normal, but we are carrying so much trauma. I think a lot of us are just carrying trauma we've not dealt with. And we are passing on this trauma by hurting others without realizing we're not being malicious. But because we were hurt, we're carrying on the hurt, and the hurt is going transgenerationally. It's going across generations because we're teaching the younger people, you don't need to deal with your trauma. You're fine. Get up, dust yourself off, and you're fine. Keep going. And we need to break these cycles. Deal with your trauma properly. And if you need help, get it.
And it's okay to ask for help. That's what I always say. It's okay to ask for help. And I always say, like, if you don't deal with like your inner child and your inner traumas, 90% of how you react to things is based off of those traumas. No one realizes that. Only 10% has to deal with what's presently happening to you. So it's very, very important to really deal with your inner child work and deal with your inner trauma and things like that. Because in this day and age, it's better not to sweep things under the rug. It's better to just deal with things face on, and like you said, it breaks generational curses and everything. So yeah, that's very, very important. And another thing that I heard you when you said is that a lot of people don't realize that there's a such thing as functional alcoholism and addiction. You can get up every day, go to work, look good, but you still are dealing with an addiction or alcoholism, because anything that you're using if you're using something as a crutch to deal with things, that is alcoholism, that is addiction. And you can look put together and everything. It's not that you have to be in the gutter, Exactly. So I think that we have to just break that notion of, if you're not in the gutter, if you're not homeless or whatever, that you're fine. No, you're not. You could be put together and still be dealing with addiction and alcoholism. So I am so happy that you brought that up, Wendy. So happy. Yes. So Wendy, you have a book, right? I do.
Do you
have it with you so that you can hold it up or no?
Oh no, I don't have it.
That's okay. That's okay. What is tell everyone what is the name of your book and how they can find it.
My book is called Baby Steps to Sobriety, and it is available on Amazon and Kindle. Author by yours truly, Wendy, but it's called Baby Steps to Sobriety. And my motivation for it was when I did finally get sober, that first year, from the withdrawal to the panic attacks, to the not sleeping, to the I started double checking everything I was doing. I was so uncertain of everything because I always had the alcohol to give me sort of like that boost of confidence. And I didn't have it anymore. So I was kind of like questioning everything I did. I wasn't sleeping very well because again, I was drinking almost to sleep, just to quiet my mind. And when I started this journey, I found a lot of books that told me what to do, like you should meditate, you should do this. But I didn't find, at least when I was looking, I didn't find a book that told me, in the first 2 months, your body is going to react like you don't, you're completely apart from your body. Like your stomach is going to hurt. Your muscles are going to hurt. You're going to be eating and feeling like nothing has flavor. And you're going to be fighting every urge to drink. I didn't know all of those things. And so baby steps to sobriety for me is first telling people that waking up and quitting is not the formula for success. You need to start dealing with some of those underlying issues before you get to the point of quitting. Because when you just quit cold turkey without dealing with the reasons that make you drink, those reasons are going to take you back to drinking. And then I also wanted to give people a real life experience of what it's like for the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But also to say, yes, some of these things are scary. You're going to have night scares and you're going to have night terrors, but it's worth it. And when you get on the other side, when that clarity of mind comes and you finally feel like, oh my God, my mind has felt like it's been in a fog and it's finally clear. It's such a great feeling. And that it's so worth it. And I felt that it's important. We say so often to people, you can get through this, you can recover from addiction. But we rarely hear the struggle, the pain that individuals go through to try and stay sober. Because you're trying to stay sober when life is still happening. So a lot of those voices haven't really gone away. You just have to learn to tame them and be friends with your voices so that they don't have power over you anymore. And my book is about that. It's saying this life, I've told a lot about growing up, about all the layers that drove me to drinking. And a lot of it is not pretty. And at some point of the book, I say, I'm not writing this for you to feel pity for me. That's not the point. I've been very blessed in a lot of ways. But it is important for you to look back and deal with the things that went wrong. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't my fault that those things happened, but they did. And they started a cycle in me that only I have the power to stop. And reinforcing the fact that addiction of any kind, you have that power. Only you can say, I'm quitting because my mom asked me to, or my dad threatened to cut off my allowance. I'm quitting because my wife wants me to. It can't be about anybody else. It's got to be about you, about me, and knowing that I'm worth fighting for. That this isn't about anybody else. My health, my sanity is about me. And it's not vain. It's not selfish. I would never have been able to write this book or believe in myself enough to write this book if I was still drinking. I would never have been able to face my traumas if I was still drinking. There's so many things a lot of us are so capable of, but the fear and the insecurity that these addictions reinforce hold us back. And so one of the things about living a life free of addiction is you can see for yourself how much farther you can go. And I'm not promising anyone you'll be a millionaire overnight, but I'm saying you've got dreams that you put on hold because you're afraid, because you just don't know. And me writing this book was my way of telling myself before anybody else that I'm worthy. My story is valid, it's honest, it's not easy, but I'm not going to let shame hold me back anymore. It's not going to hold me down. And and that is why I wrote this book. And I'm hoping somebody's going to read it and and maybe a seed will be planted that you can do it. You are so amazing, and you don't need any drug or alcohol or sex or anything
or shopping, because it can be anything, right?
It could be
Wendy?
anything.
Shopping, it could be sex addiction, it can be any type of anything that you're holding on as a clutch to get you through hard feelings. Yes, that's addiction. So
Yes.
yeah.
And you can let go of it.
Yes.
And
yes.
you will be better than fine. You will
Mhm.
see things about yourself you didn't even know was still there in you. Dreams you've always had, but you're like, okay, I can't do that anymore. I'm too old for this.
Yeah.
You can start challenging all of those voices and start telling yourself a different narrative.
Yes.
And you don't know what you can bring to the world if you just trust and believe in yourself.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Wendy, where can everyone find you online? Like, what is your Facebook? Is it anything, Facebook or website or anything else that they can find you? Because you're so inspirational.
Thank you. I am a little bit awkward with social media, but I do try. Okay. I have a blog. Okay. It's called The Musings of a Wandering Mind. Okay. I know that's a mouthful. The Musings of a Wandering Mind. Okay. And it is not just about addiction, but it's about I put my thoughts on there and I ask questions. Okay. I ask what life would be like if we challenge some of our stereotypes about ourselves. I ask those thoughts that I think about at 3 o'clock in the morning when I wake up and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I have a very wonderful mind up here. But anyway, so that's what the blog is about. I write a bit about my journey. I write about my fears and stuff. So there's that. I can be found on Facebook. Just Wendy, Cecilia, Kinyeki, those are my names. I can be found on Facebook. I am also on Instagram. And my username is Wondering Wendy K. Wondering with an A, WANDERING, Wondering Wendy K on Instagram. And yeah, that's about it. I don't have a Twitter account, not yet. I'm still gathering. It's one of those things I'm still gathering courage to get on. Okay. As I said, for a really long time, I felt like, okay, who's gonna want to read what I write? So I still haven't even gotten. A lot of people. Yeah, but I can honestly tell you, I really had that thought for a really long time. Why would I get on Twitter and what would I say in 140 characters that anyone would want to read? That's how low I thought of myself or of my thoughts or of my ideas. And I was just like, why would even Instagram? I think I'm a little, maybe 3 months old on there. And it was because a friend of mine just kept pushing and pushing, like, when do you gonna get on Instagram? I'm tired of sharing stories with you. Get on Instagram. But I really just felt like, why would anyone want to read anything I write? Why would my opinion count for something? And that's those voices that and I think a lot, especially women, we're so vulnerable to those voices in our heads. And if you've had the unfortunate experience of having people who reinforce those voices because of difficult relationship choices or difficult life experiences, it's really hard to let go of those voices that tell you. True. Because you just feel like, okay, I already feel this way. And then you meet someone and you're dating them and they're like, I had an ex many years ago who told me, you're fat, you're ugly, and I'm the only one who's going to love you. And I believed him at the time. I did. So it just reinforced all of those. And I think women are more susceptible than men, but men too fall prey to this sort of manipulation. And unfortunately, our brains are incredibly powerful. But when you put the wrong material in, it's just going to regurgitate that back to you. And you end up believing it because you've had it and it's been reinforced through unfortunate events. And you keep believing it to the point of you have a hard time just looking at yourself in the mirror. And I'm going to share this with you because I think it's important for people to know. I wonder how many of us look in the mirror and tell ourselves we're beautiful. So true. I did that for the first time in September of last year. And I cried for maybe 30 minutes after that. Because I'd always, and if you ask any of my friends, I always said, oh yeah, I'm like the girl next door. I'm like that, that girl next door that everyone knows. And you're there, we see you, but you're not really there. And I called myself that. And the first time, and people tell you, you're beautiful. Oh my God, I love your fashion sense. I love this.
Yeah.
But I never really heard it or internalized it. But most importantly, I didn't believe in myself. So the first time I looked at myself in the mirror and told myself, you're beautiful, and meant it, I ended up crying. I cried, and at some point I was like, I don't even know why I'm crying. But it just hit me. It was like a punch in the gut, but in a good way. But it was like, how have I never done this? How have I never looked at myself and thought of just something as simple as that? No vanity, nothing, just looking at yourself and saying, I am beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
And it's those small things that I think we need to start. And for me, and because of this platform, it's for women.
Yeah.
I would say, if I would ask each of us who's watching this, get up, go in front of a mirror, look at yourself, really look at yourself, and tell yourself, I am beautiful. And say it as many times as you need to until you believe it. And you'll be amazed at how lighter you feel on the inside. So yes.
I love it. Thank you, Wendy. This has been an amazing interview. Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with us.
I am honored that you even found my story worthy to be on such a platform. And it is brave of you and so courageous of you because what you're doing is you're holding out your hand and asking us to come with you as you go on this journey. And hopefully, maybe we can do the same to others. Yes. And all of us can journey on this together.
All of us.
And lift each other up. Because I think, I truly believe that there is nothing more powerful than women lifting up women. I think if we just believed in ourselves enough and just lifted one woman in our circle, the effects we would have globally, we would be unstoppable. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you.